episode. I'm excited. My guest today is the author of multiple novels, including Dava Shastri's Last Day, Advika and the Hollywood Wives, and her newest novel, The Other Lata, which I think is the perfect spring summer. Please welcome Kirthana Ramisetti.
Hi,
Thank you for
everybody.
being here.
Thank you. Thanks for having
Now,
me.
can you give us a synopsis of The Other Lata?
So I think of the novel as Sex and the City meets Inventing Anna,
Mm.
which I think sounds fun. Sorry, I just complimented my own description. Oh, it's
I
Friday,
love that
guys.
though. I love that though.
Thank you. So the novel is about Lata Murthy. She lives in New York City, and she's always wanted to have the Sex and the City, Carrie Bradshaw lifestyle. And that's why she moved here. But instead, in her 30s, she's living paycheck to paycheck with roommates and a dead-end job. And it's not the life she envisioned for herself. So when she started getting invitations sent to her inbox for somebody who shares her name to all these fancy events and parties and soirees, she thinks, well, maybe I'll just go to one of these. I mean, we share the same name. And then she quickly realizes how easy it is to take on this other person's identity and just keeps doing it. And finally is living the life of her dreams until the other Letta returns and is not happy with her identity being taken over. And then things get really interesting.
Mhm. I really enjoyed the way that you put in a lot of different elements to this book. So, without giving spoilers, you have various types of relationships between her and her best friend, her and these new people that she meets because she's going to these, parties she wasn't technically invited to. And she also has a romance. Like you really examined a lot of different relationships with a lot of different people across various, levels of wealth and otherwise. And I think it really balanced the story and gave a lot of fun to it. Did you always know what characters were going to play a role in her story or in this story, let's just say?
Yeah, I did. I realized that early on that this is a person who's always wanted to feel a sense of belonging, specifically with people who she felt like, because of her upbringing, she always felt like an outsider. She grew up in a very very cliquey town in Connecticut where there was a lot of wealth, and she grew up middle class. And so, as someone who's always on the outside looking in, one of the reasons she was seeking to take on this other Leta's identity was just not to just transcend her surroundings in terms of her class and her economic station, but also find a sense of people she felt like she belonged with. And to do that, I had to create a cast of characters for her to kind of ensconce herself with, including a love interest, including someone who was like the dream boyfriend, which I think is so rare to find someone to check all the boxes. And so I really wanted to create that for somebody in terms of Rajiv, the person who's her love
Mhm.
interest, where because it actually they meet pretty early on when she's meeting. I'm so sorry, there's so much honking
That's okay.
happening.
Very, very on with the book too. New York
New
City.
York City.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, women wanted to raise the stakes early because she meets Raji while pretending to be the other Letta, and they hit it off immediately in all the ways, which kind of keeps her playing this persona where if she was really practical about it, she realizes it's something she couldn't sustain, but now she really wants to because she met basically the perfect person for her.
Yeah. And that throughout the whole book was one of those things where you're like waiting for the other shoe to drop. Like just in that relationship alone, I was kind of like holding my breath. I felt like, but I also have to talk about the names of each chapter. You very Sex in the City, like each name of the chapter is a clothing designer or store name. What was the thought process behind that, and how did you organize each one?
Yeah, I think honestly, I do that for me. I always love to title my chapter names for each of my novels because I think it's just a fun element that makes writing fun for me. And so I felt like I was trying to think about how to title the chapter names for this particular book, and I realized fashion plays such an important role in Leta's life, and she's always trying on something or wearing something in each chapter. So I thought it'd be a fun way for the reader to understand what the importance of each of the items she's wearing in each individual chapter in terms of her story arc and what her thought process was. And again, it's just a fun way to like organize the novel, and it makes also for the reader maybe they'll be like kind of looking out for like why is this
Yes.
chapter called Zara, or why is this chapter called I blanked on Chanel, like my fake
Yeah.
Chanel company.
Yeah.
So yeah, as a writer, I find it really fun to do that, but I hope the reader finds it fun too.
I did. Once I caught on, and that sounds bad because it's obviously every chapter is named that, but like once I officially caught on, I was looking for it in every chapter and kind of clocking it. And I do think that that gives a little fun to the chapter too. And it helps you pay attention, right? To like the details of the clothing that she's putting on and where she got it and how she got it. And was it, from a secondhand store? Was it bought on sale? Was it, etc.? And it kind of plays to her character.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's funny you asked that question for two reasons. One is I have a Substack called Free Happiness. Um, And it's based off the concept of Dava, where Dava is talking with her young son, and they're mourning the loss of her husband and his father. And to cheer themselves up, they talk about music, and he'll play his favorite music, and she's like, "Why is it?" He asks her, "Why does this feel so good?" And Dava's like, "It's just a little bit of free happiness." So I thought, happiness is like something that I
yeah.
think is on my mind, just in terms of something that it can feel like an elusive thing in some ways, but I also feel like happiness is not something that's sustainable in the long run. It's more like a pocket of joy, and we all need pockets of joy. So that's why I created that newsletter. It's just like a serotonin boost to brighten your day, just to like, here's a little bit of happiness. And then let the I tend to write novels, at least my first two novels have bittersweet endings, which I enjoy a bittersweet ending, but I decided to do a happy ending, spoiler alert, for Letha, where she talks about the concept of infinite happiness. And for me, it was really interesting to think about what does infinite happiness mean beyond a traditional, what we think of traditionally as a happily ever after. And for me, it's just like feeling that everything in your life is going great. Everything
Yeah.
is like coming to clicking and coming together. And even if it's not sustainable in the long run, because we all experience
Yeah.
peaks and valleys and ups and downs, there's a moment in time where everything just feels right. And I thought that'd be a really cool thing to give my character
Oh, I like that.
end of the
That's
novel.
really nice. Yeah. And to have you explain that, having read the book, I'm like, oh yeah, you did that for her. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, what are some of the things that make you happy? What are the free happiness that you get?
I think for me, sometimes it's like I think just if you sometimes you'll hear I think a perfect pop song that hits you at the right time.
Yes.
I think there's some nothing better where you because it's like such a sense memory. If you hear a certain song and reminds you of a certain moment, that to me is a little bit of happiness. But I think for me, it's just kind of what I was describing with the idea of infinite happiness. But just when everything is clicking in place, or if you're surrounded by people who know you and value you, and I think I something people that you feel 100% yourself with, feel comfortable with, and you just have that moment of connection, and like just like again, going back to a public persona, private self thing, where you can just be completely yourself and feel
Mhm.
comfortable and surrounded by love and give that love back in return.
Turn, I guess.
When I was younger, I used to think there was a virtue in being chosen, like,
Mm.
being asked out on a date or getting chosen for a cool, getting hired by the right job, or,
Yeah.
as an author, making some sort of like list, like 10 books we can't wait to read in 2025. And now, as I've gotten older, I realize that's really about making your own opportunities. That has made me very happy, where I realize waiting for someone else to recognize you or being chosen or highlighted, it's actually a feeling that makes me anxious and miserable. If you're always waiting for someone to recognize you or tap you with a fairy wand, I prefer making my own opportunities and also bringing along others. That has been very gratifying for me. So I guess that's my answer.
That one, that's a good answer. Nobody said that before, and that's a really good answer, and something I think a lot of people, myself included, especially in an industry where like promotion and
Mm.
getting your book out there or getting people to read it or talking about it is so important to be brave enough to do that because not a lot of people would is really great. Like it took me a long time before I had the bravery to reach out to an author and ask them to be a guest on this podcast. And it wasn't until my best friend was like, "What's the worst that they're gonna say? No?"
Yep.
And I was
Yeah.
like, "I asked."
And that's a lesson you only get as you get older, I think, because we are. I think there's so much that's instilled in us to second guess ourselves or think people like we all think that people are thinking the worst of us, where honestly people are only thinking about themselves. You know, the board game life.
Yeah,
Yes.
a long game. Yes.
The long game and the traditional markers of like the card travels, the board game
Yeah.
it picks up like the kids and the partner and
Yeah.
I think that can make things challenging one day if you like pick up all the traditional markers of success and then you get to a point you're like, I did it, but
Yeah.
now what? So I
Yeah.
think it's important to have something that you every day you wake up and you're excited and happy about. Connection, community, whether that's family or friends that feel like family, are important. And as for a third thing, I don't know, little joys, little things that pick me ups that make you happy throughout the day. I like again hearing that perfect pop song that meets the right moment at the right time, or getting into travel, or having a special snack. All those
Yes.
things.
Yep.
All those things. Funny. It's one of the weirdest things to when you have a lifelong dream, and in my case, it was to be an author, and then have it happen. It's great, honestly. I gotta say it's great, and I say that because no matter how my books are received, I always feel like I did that one thing I've always wanted to do since I was a little kid. And so no matter what happens, I can at least say I did that. Whether they're received well or if they're forgotten, it almost
Yeah.
doesn't matter. I just feel like at least that's the thing I always wanted to do, and I did it. Um, but now I'm in this place where I'm always thinking, why not try, or what else can I do? So I feel like each of my books have given me some unexpected gifts. My first book, Dava, I got to, in a weird way, write a song for it, which I never thought was possible. The song is on the audiobook. If people want to hear it, I got to kind of come up with that. My second book, my character is a screenwriter, and then I never had dreams of writing a screenplay until one day I thought, well, I think I want to try with a friend of mine because why not? Because again, it was the idea of like we were talking about romantic comedies and people we would love to see romantic comedies who never get to be in them. And then as my friend, should we just try writing one? So we did. And so that's good. And that we did that. And that was, I never dreamed of being writing a screenplay, but we did it. And
Yeah.
that's cool. And then with my third book, I've never been a fashion person. Never cared much about clothing or style, but once you're an author, you have to think more about presentation and how you dress. And so I thought, well, let me kind of invest more into that. And I wouldn't have really thought more about clothing and style if my character Letta wasn't big into that fashion. So I kind of learned how to. You're not seeing this today on the Zoom, but I've kind of been learning to like upgrade my style game in a way that it's been really rewarding.
Oh, that's so cool though, that each book kind of teaches you something and you've chosen something within each one to learn, whether it's a new hobby, a new interest, a new something. That's so cool and so interesting what you'll do for like your next few books. Like you'll learn Italian one day. You'll do this. Like I'm curious.
Me too. I have no idea what my fourth book could possibly give me, but you never
Oh,
know. You never
before
know.
we go and go to the next episode, can you tell people where they can find you and where they can buy your books?
Sure, you can. I have a website. It is my first and last name, kirthanaramisetti.com. I'm also on Instagram, same thing, my first and last name. And then I have two Substacks. The first one, as you heard, was Free Happiness. I also have a Substack with several of my author friends. All of us specialize in pop culture, so it's called Ministry of Pop Culture. And yeah, we all write about our favorite movies, TV shows, books, etc. So you can find me there as well, talking pop culture.
Awesome.